discover the untold story of Larry Aurie, the pint-sized powerhouse who became the heart and soul of the Detroit Red Wings. Born in the rugged mining town of Sudbury, Ontario in 1905, Larry defied his small stature to rise through the ranks of hockey, earning nicknames like the Little Rag Man and Little Dempsey for his unmatched grit and skill. From his junior days in Canada to leading the Red Wings to back-to-back Stanley Cups in 1936 and 1937, Larry's career was a tale of triumph, tragedy, and controversy, including the mysterious unretirement of his number 6 jersey. Dive into his personal struggles, emotional anecdotes, and lasting legacy in this captivating biography. Whether you're a hockey history buff or love inspiring underdog stories, this video uncovers why Larry Aurie deserves to be remembered as one of the NHL's forgotten legends. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell for more deep dives into sports history. He was born Harry Lawrence Aurie on February 8, 1905, in Sudbury, Ontario. Sudbury was a bustling mining town, attracting workers from across the globe, who flocked there for the rich nickel deposits that fueled industries worldwide. These miners were a hardy bunch, descending into dark, dangerous shafts every day, emerging covered in dust and grime, their bodies weary, but their resolve unbroken. The work was grueling, with the constant threat of cave-ins, explosions, or suffocation from poor air quality. Yet these men pushed on, driven by the need to provide for their families. It was a community built on grit and survival, where families like the Auries lived modestly, often in small wooden homes clustered around the mines, heated by coal stoves and lit by kerosene lamps. Resources were scarce, and daily life revolved around the rhythm of the mines. Long hours underground for the men, starting before dawn and ending after dusk, while women managed households, tending gardens for meager vegetables, mending clothes, and raising children with whatever they could muster from limited supplies. Children contributed too, running errands or helping with chores, learning early that nothing came easy. Larry's family background remains somewhat obscure, as records from that era are incomplete and fragmented, often lost in the shuffle of immigration papers or local registries that prioritize mining logs over personal histories. But it's evident they were part of the working-class fabric of Sudbury, possibly with roots in European immigration waves that brought French, Italian, or Finnish laborers to the area. His parents likely emphasized the importance of perseverance and community, values forged in the fires of hardship, sharing meals with neighbors during tough times, attending church services for solace, and celebrating small victories like a successful hunt or a bountiful fishing trip. These lessons shaped Larry, teaching him that strength came not from physical might, but from an unyielding will, a mindset that would become his hallmark on the ice. Hockey in Sudbury wasn't just a pastime, it was a vital escape from the harsh realities of mining life, a way to release pent-up energy and forget the dangers lurking below ground. Kids like Larry learned to skate almost as soon as they could walk, gliding across frozen ponds, lakes, and rivers under the crisp northern skies, where the cold bit deep but the joy of movement warmed their spirits. They fashioned sticks from tree branches or scraps of wood scavenged from the forests surrounding the town, and pucks from frozen horse manure, rubber balls, or even chunks of ice, whatever held together long enough for a game. The game was raw and unregulated, played in the open air with wind-whipping snow across the surface, creating uneven ice that demanded quick adaptations. There were no gleaming indoor rinks with smooth, Zamboni-polished surfaces, no protective gear beyond basic pads handmade from leather or cloth, and certainly no referees enforcing strict rules. Disputes were settled with words or fists, mirroring the rough justice of the mines. Fights were as integral to the play as passing the puck, reflecting the tough, no-nonsense ethos of the mining town, where standing your ground was a matter of pride. Games often turned into all-day affairs, with boys dividing into teams based on neighborhoods or family ties, playing until darkness fell or exhaustion set in. This era followed the devastation of the First World War, which had left deep scars on families everywhere, including in Sudbury, where many had lost loved ones in the trenches or welcomed back veterans haunted by memories of mud and gunfire. The 1920s injected a bit of optimism with innovations like radios crackling with news and music, automobiles rumbling down dirt roads, and the Jazz Age bringing cultural flair through traveling shows or phonograph records. But the looming Great Depression of 1929 would soon plunge the world into economic despair, closing mines, laying off workers, and making jobs even scarcer, amplifying the struggles of families like Larry's, who might have faced rationed food, patched clothing, and the constant worry of eviction. For young Larry, who stood at just 5'6" and weighed around 148 pounds even in his prime, hockey became more than recreation. It was a proving ground, an arena where he could channel his energy and defy expectations. His small stature could have been a disadvantage in such a physical sport, where bigger boys often dominated through sheer force, but it fueled his determination to show that heart, skill, and cleverness could overcome size. He developed a style that relied on speed and agility, zipping around opponents like a shadow, using his low center of gravity to his advantage in tight turns and quick stops. From what little is known of his family, perhaps immigrants or descendants of those drawn to the mines by promises of steady work, they instilled in him a work ethic that mirrored the miner's unyielding spirit, rising early for practice on frozen surfaces, enduring blisters and bruises without complaint. Larry carried this Sudbury toughness throughout his career, turning potential weaknesses into strengths, such as his ability to absorb hits and bounce back, or his knack for positioning himself in the right spot at the right time. It propelled him from those makeshift outdoor rinks, where games were interrupted by cracking ice or blizzards, to organized junior leagues with structured teams and schedules, and eventually to the professional ranks, where he would help forge a hockey legacy in Detroit, a city that shared Sudbury's industrial heartbeat, with its factories echoing the mine's ceaseless labor. Larry's path to the pros began in his teenage years, far from the glamour of the NHL, in the rough-and-tumble junior circuits of Ontario, where hockey was played with passion but little polish. In 1921, at the tender age of 16, he joined the Sudbury Cub Wolves in the Northern Ontario Junior Hockey Association, a league that featured raw talent from mining towns across the region. Right from the start, he made an impact, tallying 7 points in 4 regular season games and adding 3 more in the playoffs, numbers that stood out in an era when goals were hard-won against rugged defenses. His speed was electric, allowing him to dart past larger opponents who lumbered like the heavy machinery in the mines, and his puck handling was mesmerizing. He could control the puck with a finesse that left defenders spinning, anticipating moves that never came. This skill earned him his enduring nickname, the Little Rag Man, derived from his ability to rag the puck during penalty kills, a tactic where he'd cradle it close to his body, weaving through traffic like a rag doll evading grasps, killing precious seconds while frustrating the opposition into errors or penalties. It wasn't just effective for shorthanded situations. It was entertaining, transforming a defensive necessity into a spectacle that drew cheers from the sparse crowds in those small-town arenas, where spectators huddled in wool coats against the cold, leaking through wooden walls. The following season, 1922-23, saw Larry move to the Toronto St. Michael's Majors in the Ontario Hockey Association's junior division, a step up in competition that exposed him to bigger cities and more skilled players. Here, he truly blossomed, amassing an impressive 20 points in just 7 games, a remarkable output for the time when scoring was lower due to the era's defensive style, with rules prohibiting forward passes in the neutral zone and goaltenders allowed to sprawl across the crease. His games were filled with highlight reel moments, like deking past multiple defenders in a single rush, or setting up teammates with precise saucer passes over sticks. But hockey in the 1920s was no easy ride. It demanded resilience beyond the ice. Travel meant long, bumpy train rides or bus trips over unpaved roads, often in freezing conditions that turned vehicles into ice boxes, with players bundling in blankets and sharing thermoses of hot soup. Pay was minimal, if it existed at all for juniors, sometimes just meal allowances or hand-me-down equipment. And injuries were frequent without the advanced protective equipment of today. Helmets were rare, mouthguards non-existent, and players like Larry played through bruises, cuts, and sprains, relying on sheer willpower and homemade remedies like liniment rubs or ice packs from frozen rivers. Records from his subsequent stints with the Sudbury Wolves in the Northern Ontario, Hockey Association from 1923 to 1925 are patchy, likely lost to time, or never meticulously kept in an age before digital databases, but they indicate lean years where he honed his craft amid local rivalries, facing off against teams from nearby towns in games that felt like family feuds, with crowds of miners and their kin, cheering boisterously, sometimes spilling onto the ice in excitement. By the 1925-26 season, Larry had advanced to the senior level with the Galt Terriers in the Ontario Hockey Association, a more competitive circuit that bridged junior and pro hockey. He contributed 15 points in 20 games, showcasing his growing offensive prowess with goals that often came from clever positioning or quick wrist shots that caught goalies off guard. The playoffs ended in disappointment with a loss in the group finals, a series marked by tight checking and overtime thrillers, but Larry's talent was clear, highlighting a player who, despite his size, was a constant threat with his agility, vision, and uncanny ability to read the play before it unfolded. The turning point arrived in 1926 when Larry signed with the London Panthers in the Canadian Professional Hockey League, marking his entry into paid professional hockey, where salaries, though modest, allowed him to focus solely on the game. In 32 games, he notched 21 points, a solid total in a league known for its physicality, helping the Panthers secure a championship with 4 additional playoff points that included clutch goals in elimination games. His feisty play as a right winger, combining scoring touch with a willingness to engage physically, dropping gloves against bigger foes, drew attention from NHL scouts scouring the minors for hidden gems. Jack Adams, the astute coach and general manager of the Detroit Cougars, a fresh expansion team in the NHL entering its second season, recognized Larry's potential as the perfect blend of skill and tenacity. Adams was assembling a roster of tough, skilled players to compete in a league dominated by Canadian powerhouses like the Montreal Canadiens and Toronto Maple Leafs, teams with deep rosters and rabid fan bases. In 1927, Larry inked a deal with Detroit, crossing the border into the United States and stepping onto the NHL stage, leaving behind the familiar Canadian winters for the promise of professional glory in a new country. Detroit in the late 1920s was a booming metropolis, the epicenter of America's automotive revolution, where Henry Ford's assembly lines churned out Model Ts at a dizzying pace, transforming the city into a symbol of innovation and opportunity. Immigrants and workers from far and wide flooded in, filling neighborhoods with diverse cultures, languages, and cuisines, creating a vibrant, blue-collar city that mirrored Sudbury's industrious spirit but on a grander scale, with skyscrapers rising alongside, factories belching smoke. Hockey was still emerging as a draw, overshadowed by baseball's Detroit Tigers, who packed stadiums with their World Series pursuits, and boxing matches at local arenas where crowds roared for heavyweights like Joe Louis. But Larry fit seamlessly, a hard-working underdog in a town that celebrated grit, much like the auto workers who toiled on lines, piecing together cars with precision and endurance. His rookie NHL season in 1927-28 was steady, if not spectacular, as he adjusted to the league's faster pace and harder hits. Donning number 15 for the Cougars, he appeared in 44 games, scoring 13 goals and adding 3 assists for 16 points, numbers that reflected his growing confidence. His 43 penalty minutes underscored his combative style, earning him another nickname, Little Dempsey, after the legendary boxer Jack Dempsey, known for his ferocious punches. Teammates were in awe of his fearlessness. One recalled how Larry would charge into corners against opponents twice his size, emerging with the puck through sheer determination. Aurie would fight a tiger to win and was a damn good hockey player. He was very small, only 145 pounds, but very strong. He would stand in front of the net and take punishment, a fellow player noted, highlighting his willingness to endure cross-checks and slashes for a scoring chance. The Cougars finished just 2 points shy of the playoffs, a tough inaugural year marked by inconsistent play and road losses, but Larry's loyalty shone through as he dedicated off-seasons to rigorous training, building muscle and endurance to compensate for his frame, often working out in local gyms with weights or running through Detroit's bustling streets, dodging streetcars and pedestrians. As the team rebranded to the Detroit Falcons in 1930, amid financial struggles that nearly folded the franchise, Larry's production climbed, adapting to new line mates and systems. He consistently hit double-digit goals, solidifying his role as a reliable right winger who could contribute on both ends of the ice, killing penalties with his ragging skills or sparking offense with sharp passes. The 1932 name change to the Detroit Red Wings brought fresh energy, courtesy of new owner James Norris, a wealthy grain merchant from Montreal who infused capital and vision, introducing the iconic winged wheel logo that symbolized speed and echoed the city's automotive heritage, evoking tires spinning on racetracks. Larry was appointed the first captain that season, a testament to his leadership qualities, quiet but inspiring, leading by example on and off the ice, rallying teammates during slumps with steady play rather than fiery speeches. His points remained consistent around the mid-20s, but his influence extended beyond stats, mentoring younger players on the nuances of positioning and anticipation. He formed a dynamic line with center Marty Barry, a smooth playmaker, and left winger Herbie Lewis, a speedy finisher, one of the NHL's earliest powerhouse trios that clicked like well-oiled machinery. Dubbed the puck line for their seamless control, they overwhelmed opponents with quick, precise passes through seams, unyielding pressure in the offensive zone, and a chemistry born from hours of practice. Larry's game was selfless, ferocious forechecking to regain possession, digging pucks out of corners with his stick while fending off checks, dogged back-checking to thwart attacks, racing back to break up odd-man rushes, and a readiness to sacrifice his body for the team, blocking shots or tying up sticks in front of the net. In an era without helmets or face masks, this meant absorbing brutal hits that left welts and bruises. Yet Larry thrived, his Sudbury roots fueling his resilience, turning pain into motivation. The 1933-34 season marked a breakout for the Wings, with Larry leading the team in points, 35, and assists, a feat he repeated twice in his career, highlighting his playmaking acumen that complemented his scoring touch. He set up goals with tape-to-tape passes, often finding Barry or Lewis in stride for breakaways. The following year, 1934-35, was his pinnacle offensively. He erupted for a career-high 46 points in 48 games, placing third league-wide behind stars like Charlie Conacher, amassing goals through deflections, rebounds, and snipes from the slot. That season, he and Herbie Lewis represented Detroit at the NHL's inaugural All-Star Game, a benefit match for injured Toronto player Ace Bailey, drawing stars from across the league like Howie Morenz and Eddie Shore, underscoring Larry's rising status as a respected veteran. The Red Wings' ascent culminated in 1935-36, capturing their first Stanley Cup with a sweep of the Toronto Maple Leafs in a final series filled with tension and drama. Larry's end-to-end rushes were pivotal, like in Game 3 where he carried the puck coast to coast, drawing defenders before dishing for the winner, energizing teammates and the roaring crowds at Olympia Stadium, Detroit's hockey cathedral with its red brick exterior and electric atmosphere. They defended the title in 1936-37, outlasting the New York Rangers in a grueling 5-game final marked by overtime, heroics, and bruising play. Larry dominated the regular season, leading the NHL with 23 goals in 45 games, many from his trademark wrist shot that curved like a boomerang, earning first All-Star team honors alongside legends like Bill Cook. He also paced the playoffs in goals that year, having previously topped league playoff scoring in 1934 with 10 points in 9 games, including multi-point outings that swung series. Owner Norris lauded him as the heart and soul of the franchise, a player whose hustle and determination embodied the team's ethos, inspiring fans who packed the arena in fedoras and overcoats. Yet, glory intertwined with adversity as the physical toll of the game caught up. On March 11, 1937, in a 4-2 victory over the Rangers at Madison Square Garden, Larry netted his 23rd goal with a deft redirection, but a late-game collision with defenseman Art Coulter, a hard-nosed blue liner known for his checks, resulted in a severe leg fracture, the fibula snapping with an audible crack that silenced the crowd. The injury sidelined him for the playoffs, where the Wings fell short without his spark and lingered through rehab, robbing him of his explosive speed despite months of painful therapy with braces and crutches. In 1937-38, his output plummeted to 10 goals and 19 points in 47 games. As he labored on the ice, his once fluid strides now hesitant, frustration evident in missed opportunities. At 33, after 489 NHL contests with 147 goals, 128 assists, and 275 points, Larry retired, one of the smallest yet toughest players of his generation. His stats elite in an era of low-scoring games where seasons featured only 44 to 48 matches, defenses clogged lanes, and goaltenders like Tiny Thompson faced fewer but deadlier shots. Hockey, however, retained its pull on Larry, a passion too deep to abandon entirely. In 1938-39, he took on a player-coach role with the Pittsburgh Hornets, Detroit's affiliate in the International American Hockey League, later AHL, blending his on-ice skills with tactical acumen. He excelled as a player, earning second All-Star honors with solid production in a league that emphasized development, scoring timely goals while directing plays from the bench. A touching highlight came on January 10, 1939, when he laced up for one final NHL appearance with the Red Wings, called up for a special game against Montreal, where he scored the game-winning goal in a 3-0 shutout, roofing a backhander past the goalie to the delight of the Olympia crowd, who rose in ovation for their departing hero. Larry continued coaching the Hornets until 1944, posting records that varied from competitive to rebuilding. For instance, a 22-28-6 mark in 1939-40 amid roster turnover, improving to 27-18-11 by 1941-42, as he implemented systems focused on forechecking and discipline. He then shifted to the Oshawa Generals in the Ontario Hockey Association, a junior team where he mentored emerging talents in a wartime league thinned by enlistments. Notably, he coached young Alex Del Vecchio, a lanky center with raw potential, imparting fundamentals like stick-handling drills and positional play, along with a passion for the game that emphasized teamwork over individual glory. Del Vecchio later reflected on how Aurie's patient guidance, through one-on-one sessions after practice, shaped his Hall of Fame career, turning a shy prospect into a poised professional. Larry's personal life remained veiled, typical of athletes in that privacy-valuing era when media focused on games rather than off-ice affairs. No records indicate he ever married, suggesting a life devoted primarily to hockey and close family bonds, perhaps content with the camaraderie of teammates as his extended circle. He had a cousin, Cummy Burton, who briefly played for the Wings in the late 1950s, inheriting Larry's number 6 with family consent, a nod to their shared bloodline. Larry fully embraced Detroit as his adopted home, settling there post-retirement in a modest house near the river, immersing himself in the community that had cheered his exploits, attending local events, or dropping by rinks to watch pickup games. Health challenges emerged later. High blood pressure plagued him, a byproduct of years enduring the sport's physical demands, repeated collisions, unchecked hits, and the stress of high-stakes play, without today's medical advancements like blood thinners or routine checkups. On December 11, 1952, while driving through Detroit's familiar streets lined with holiday lights, he suffered a massive stroke, the world blurring as pain seized him. Rushed to Mount Carmel Mercy Hospital, he succumbed the next day at age 47, his passing swift and unexpected. The news stunned the hockey world. Teammates grieved a brother gone too soon, sharing stories over somber drinks. Fans mourned a pioneer, clipping obituaries from newspapers. His burial at Holy Sepulchre Cemetery in Southfield, Michigan, was understated, attended by family, former players, and a few loyal supporters, befitting a humble man whose legacy lay in actions, not fanfare. Larry's untimely death underscored the era's harsh realities. No concussion protocols to monitor head injuries, limited injury rehab beyond basic physio, and the cumulative toll of a bruising sport that demanded everything from its warriors. What makes Larry's story resonate on a human level are the anecdotes from those who shared the ice with him, revealing a man of depth beyond the rink. rink with layers of emotion and character. Teammate Carl Liscombe vividly recalled his tenacity in the crease, where he'd plant himself like a sentinel, fending off slashes and elbows. He would stand in front of the net and take on players 50 to 60 pounds heavier and handle it well. Much like Dino Ciccarelli, only Larry could fight. He would drop his stick at the drop of a hat. This bravery stemmed from Sudbury's unforgiving environment, where backing down wasn't an option, whether facing a bully in the schoolyard or a foreman in the mines. Another tale from intense playoff battles captures his motivational spirit. Exhausted and battered after double shifts, Larry would motivate his line mates with understated encouragement, gathering them in the locker room between periods for quiet words like, "Keep pushing, boys. We're building something here." His voice steady amid the clatter of sticks and skates. His greatest joys were collective triumphs, like hoisting the 1936 Cup in the Olympia, where he embraced Barry and Lewis amid champagne sprays and confetti, murmuring, "This is for Detroit," his eyes glistening with pride for the city that adopted him. Tears mingled with laughter, offering a rare glimpse of his emotional core beneath the tough exterior, a moment where the weight of years of struggle lifted in shared victory. Larry embodied profound contradictions, a ferocious competitor with a compassionate soul, blending the fighter's edge with a mentor's gentleness. Summers saw him training obsessively to defy his diminutive build, lifting makeshift weights in basements, old tires or sandbags, or sprinting through Detroit parks at dawn, sweat mixing with morning dew, yet internal insecurities about his size persisted, whispering doubts during quiet nights. The 1937 leg fracture inflicted more than physical pain. It curtailed his prime, breeding unspoken regrets about what might have been. More cups, more records, leaving him to ponder alternate paths and reflective moments. Still, complaints were absent. He redirected his energy into coaching, where he'd sideline rookies for heartfelt advice, pulling them aside after botched plays to say, "Size don't matter, heart does," his words carrying the weight of personal experience. Ted Lindsay, another undersized wing who became a legend with his own fiery style, acknowledged the impact, recalling how Aurie demonstrated techniques like body positioning during informal sessions. "Aurie showed me a lot of things about hockey," crediting that guidance for building his confidence in formative years. In retirement, Larry savored simple pleasures that contrasted his intense career, fishing on serene Michigan lakes, where the quiet waters mirrored his contemplative side, casting lines for bass or perch while lost in thought, or lingering at local rinks to chat with fans, signing autographs on programs with genuine warmth, sharing laughs about old games. A rarely shared story illuminates his generosity. In Detroit's working-class neighborhoods, amid the factories and row houses, he volunteered time teaching underprivileged kids to skate on community ponds, blending hockey drills like stick-handling exercises with life wisdom drawn from his own journey. "Life's like a bad shift," he'd say with a grin, helping a fallen youngster up. "You get knocked down, you get back up, dust off, and go again." These vignettes peel back the layers, exposing the vulnerabilities of injury that left lasting aches, the fulfillment of mentorship that filled his later days, and the poignant beauty of a life lived with quiet intensity, balancing raw ambition with humble grace. Every compelling narrative harbors shadows, and Larry centers on the saga of his number 6 jersey, a symbol of honor turned into a point of contention. Following the 1937-38 season, owner James Norris retired it, the franchise's inaugural such honor, proclaiming Larry the heart and soul of the team in a ceremony that drew applause from fans and players alike. It dangled proudly from Olympia Stadium's rafters, a beacon of respect for his contributions, fluttering during games as a reminder of his era. In the late 1950s, with explicit family approval, cousin Cummy Burton, often misreported as a nephew, donned it for 2 seasons, a brief revival that honored the lineage before it returned to dormancy, worn with pride but retired again. The banner remained displayed in Olympia's lobby through the 1960s, a tangible link to the past amid evolving team displays. But winds shifted when Mike Ilitch acquired the team in 1982, ushering in a new era of success and a move to the modern Joe Louis Arena. Ilitch declined to hang the banner alongside others like Gordie Howe's 9 or Terry Sawchuk's 1, rationalizing that Larry's exclusion from the Hockey Hall of Fame disqualified him, a decision that puzzled historians given the retirement's historical precedence. Wings vice president Jimmy Davillano echoed this stance publicly. The team refuses to hang the number because Aurie is not a Hall of Famer. Yet, the retirement predated Ilitch by decades. Why retroactively dismantle history, erasing a tribute granted by the founder? The family resisted fiercely, campaigning through letters and interviews to restore the honor. Cummy Burton poignantly argued, not hanging up Larry's number would be compared to the Yankees not retiring Lou Gehrig's number, just because he was from the 1930s and now forgotten just because it's all old stuff now. It's like saying that war heroes don't mean anything just because they're not around anymore. Debates persist among fans and analysts. Was it elitism toward pre-expansion players whose stats, compiled in shorter seasons with fewer games, pale against modern inflated numbers from 82-game schedules and offensive rules? A policy pivot prioritizing Hall inductees to maintain exclusivity? Critics accuse Ilitch of favoring contemporary stars like Steve Yzerman, whose 19 hangs prominently, marginalizing foundational figures from the league's early days. Defenders counter that Hall status sets a consistent benchmark for immortality. Though Larry's achievements, league-leading goals, back-to-back cups, all-star nods, rival many enshrined, like those from similar eras with comparable totals. It's a layered dilemma, pitting reverence for tradition against evolving standards in a sport that balances nostalgia with progress, prompting reflection on who stewards history and whether owners can unilaterally rewrite legacies, potentially diminishing the contributions of pioneers who built the foundation. The controversy's repercussions echo, casting Larry's remembrance in ambiguity, a shadow over an otherwise celebrated career. His foundational efforts, 2 Stanley Cups that ignited Detroit's championship tradition, captaincy that set leadership tones, scoring milestones like leading the league in goals, laid the bedrock for the Red Wings dynasties, transforming a fledgling franchise into a powerhouse that would win more cups and draw generations of fans. Culturally, he galvanized undersized aspirants in a giant-dominated sport, embodying that tenacity eclipses physicality, inspiring players like Lindsay or modern small forwards who study his tapes for lessons in grit. In today's discourse on athlete commemoration, amid jersey retirements and Hall inductions, Larry's narrative compels us to venerate the overlooked architects who labored sans limelight, ensuring their stories aren't lost to time. It parallels wider historical oversights, where authority figures selectively curate the past, often erasing inconvenient or lesser celebrated contributions to fit contemporary narratives. From Larry, we glean humility, the pugilist who instructed with gentleness, the luminary who receded modestly into coaching and community. His relevance endures because neglecting him impoverishes hockey, depriving youth of exemplars in endurance and spirit, reminding us that true legends are measured not just by stats, but by the indelible mark on those who follow. Ultimately, Larry Aurie symbolized the human spirit's delicate potency, a blend of fragility and unbreakable resolve. From Ontario's glacial ponds, where he first chased dreams on cracked ice, to Detroit's triumphant arenas filled with roaring crowds, traversing wounds that scarred body and soul, and discord that tested his legacy. His ardor for hockey remained unwavering, a flame that burned bright until the end. We ought to regard him as the diminutive warrior who clashed valiantly against odds and garnered esteem from peers and fans alike. Permit his heritage to persist, softly urging us to esteem those who forged our cherished trails, ensuring their paths remain lit for future skaters.